When he was at the restaurant, he would speak to me and would sometimes pull the ends of my long hair as I walked by him. I had red hair down to my waist. He would compliment me on my looks, and I did not think anything of it. I did nothing to encourage his flirtatious behavior. I was accustomed to men flirting with me because I was a well-developed and competed in beauty pageants. I did not attach any significance to Mr. Moore's behavior towards me, and I did not respond to any of Mr. Moore's flirtatious behavior for two reasons. First, I had a boyfriend. Second, if I had not had a boyfriend, I was not interested in having a dating or sexual relationship with a man that was twice my age. I turned 16, November the 14th, 1977. About a month later, I received my yearbook from Southside High School, where I spent my freshman and my sophomore years. I happened to bring my yearbook to work with me to the restaurant on December the 22nd, 1977. I put it down. I put it down at the end of the counter. Mr. Moore happened to notice it, and he asked me if he could write in my yearbook, and I felt flattered, and I said yes. He wrote in my yearbook as follows: to a sweeter, more beautiful girl. I could not say Merry Christmas. Christmas 1977. Love, Roy Moore, Old Hickory House. And it signed it Roy Moore, D.A. I took the yearbook home with me at the end of my shift that day, and I felt honored that Mr. Moore, who was such an important person, would write in my book. A week or two later, I was working at the restaurant, and my shift ended at 10 o'clock when the restaurant closed. It was a cold night, and I went outside to wait for my boyfriend to pick me up and drive me home. My boyfriend was late, and Mr. Moore exited the restaurant at the same time as I did. He noticed that my boyfriend was not there, and he offered me a ride home. I trusted Mr. Moore because he was the district attorney. I thought that he was simply doing something nice by offering to drive me home. I did not want to wait outside in the cold, so I agreed. I wanted to call my boyfriend, but this was way back before cell phones. I had no way to contact him. My home was only about 2.5 miles away. I planned to call my boyfriend after I got home to let him know that I had gotten a ride and that there was no need for him to pick me up. Mr. Moore was wearing brown hush puppies on his feet. He drove a 2-door car. I believe that it was an old car, but I do not recall the model. I got into his car in the passenger seat, and he began driving. I thought he would get on the highway, but instead he drove to the back of the restaurant. I was not immediately alarmed, as there was an exit from the back of the restaurant to the street, and he could drive there to my house without getting on the highway. However, instead of driving to the street, he stopped the car. He stopped the car and he parked his car in between the dumpster and the back of the restaurant, where there were no lights The area was dark and it was deserted. I was alarmed and I immediately asked him what he was doing. Instead of answering my questions, Mr. Moore reached over and began groping me and putting his hands on my breast. I tried to open my car door to leave, but he reached over and he locked it so I could not get out. I tried fighting him off while yelling at him to stop. But instead of stopping, he began squeezing my neck, attempting to force my head onto his crotch. I continued to struggle. I was determined that I was not going to allow him to force me to have sex with him. I was terrified. He was also trying to pull my shirt off. I thought that he was going to rape me. I was twisting and I was struggling and I was begging him to stop. I had tears running down my face. At some point he gave up. And he then looked at me and he told me, he said, "You're just a child." And he said, "I am the district attorney of Etowah County. And if you tell anyone about this, no one will ever believe you." He finally allowed me to open the door. And I either fell out or he pushed me out. I was on the ground as he pulled out of the parking area behind the restaurant. The passenger door was still open as he burned rubber, pulling away, leaving me laying there on this cold concrete in the dark. I got up and I tried to pull myself together as I was making my way to the front of the restaurant when my boyfriend arrived. It was late, it was dark, and I did not say anything to him as to what had occurred, as he had a very violent temper. And I was afraid that he would do something that would get him into trouble.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.